Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
What if Israel finally annexed Judea and Samaria to the modern state of Israel? Now, anybody who knows history knows that Judea and Samaria are the heartland of Israel. That is exactly where history happened, even more so than where Tel Aviv or Haifa is, which are very popular modern-day cities. What would happen? Well, we're going to be speaking later on in the show with Nadia Matar, and she is going to be giving us her take because she is one of the heads of the sovereignty movement, and she's pushing for this, and she welcomed the words of the United States Ambassador David Friedman when he said just recently, maybe Israel could be annexing parts of Judea and Samaria. We're going to be talking about that on the show. Also, if I have time, I'm going to share with you what happened on my Shavuot weekend. This last weekend was the Jewish holiday of Shavuot. Literally, it means weeks. And this is a time that we've counted 50 days now from the holiday of Passover or Pesach until we reached the holiday of Shavuot, where we celebrate the Jews receiving the Torah from God on Mount Sinai with Moses. This is a huge holiday. We also read the book of Ruth on this day as well, which is all about converts and righteousness. And as we all know, Ruth is one of the ancestors of the Mashiach, of King David, and then of the Messiah. So all of this is coming up in the show today. I'm going to tell you what I did and some of the things that happened to me, happened to our community. And I think it's pretty interesting. Question is, do I have enough time to do it? I'll try. I know I'm teasing you all, but I'm trying to somehow make this work out. All right. All that's coming up. Join me in the chat room. It's the orange button on our player at IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. At the top of our homepage, there's an orange button as well. It's so much fun to be in the chat room, and I want to say hi to everybody who's in there right now, and hi to everybody who's listening in from all over the world. Come and join me in the chat room. It's absolutely free. You can join in as a guest. You can use your middle name. Nobody has to know who you are. But we'd like to see you there. It's a lot of fun. We'll be right back.
Always challenging the status quo. Hello, I'm Rod Bryant on Beyond the Matrix here at IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. I want to encourage you to listen each week, every Wednesday at the same time, for an amazing show that will challenge you, inform you, and inspire. News, views, and wisdom for the nations. Here on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. Don't forget, Beyond the Matrix every week, Wednesday, here on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com.
All right, we are back here at the Tamar Yonah Show on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. We had a long weekend. It was the Shavuot holiday around the world for the Jewish people. This is the holiday where the Jewish people received the Torah from God on Mount Sinai with his servant Moses, or Moshe Rabbeinu. And it was a very, very big holiday. It's a holiday where you have lots of cheesecake as well, and you learn all night, and it's a very special thing. If I have time during the show, I'm going to tell you about that. But I want to concentrate on one of the latest news headlines, and that is the statement by the U.S. Ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, who said that Israel has a right to annex some of Judea and Samaria. Let me read you this article here from IsraelNationalNews.com or Arutz Sheva. It says here that U.S. Ambassador to Israel David Friedman has said Israel has the right to annex at least some of Judea and Samaria. Let me remind you, folks, Judea comes from the word Judah, Yehuda. Judah, one of the sons of Jacob, one of the 12 tribes of Israel. Judea was the name of this area when King David, King Shaul, King Solomon were all ruling. This was the kingdom of Judea. Only after King Solomon had his son Rehoboam, who later became king, and long story short, he raised taxes, and he wanted to show that he was strong and a good leader, like a strong leader like his father. He was going to be building great things, etc. Well, some of the tribes didn't like it, and to make a long story short, 10 of the 12 tribes, went and established their own kingdom. It was called the Northern Kingdom, and that was Israel, the Northern Kingdom of Israel. Those were the 10 tribes. And this whole land is steeped in Jewish history. Jewish history. There was no such thing as an Arab then. There was no such thing as Islam then. There was no such thing as Palestine, Palestinian, whatever way you want to put it. Didn't even exist then. This is steeped in Jewishness here. So it says here, in the interview published by the New York Times on Saturday, Friedman said that some degree of annexation of Judea and Samaria would be legitimate. Quote, under certain circumstances, I think Israel has the right to retain some, but unlikely all, of the West Bank, he said. That's how he referred to Judea and Samaria, as the West Bank, which is incorrect, but that's what people use today. He did not state what the U.S. government stance would be if Israel made such a move. The establishment of a Palestinian Authority state in the areas Israel conquered should be liberated during the Six-Day War of 1967 has been the focus of all past Middle East peace plans. No firm date has yet been set for the unveiling of the Trump administration's plan, although a conference is to be held in Bahrain later this month on its economic aspects. You know what the economic aspects of the Palestinian Authority has been until now for the last over 20 years, since I think it was 1993, since Oslo? The economic plan there wasn't even a plan. The economic reality is that the Palestinian Authority thugs, terrorists, and corrupted politicians there all in one suck off the teat of the world. That means that your tax dollars, your tax euros, your tax whatever currency you want to use, if you're in the West, is supporting this terrorist entity. They do not produce anything. When is the last time you saw anything made in the Palestinian Authority? A radio, a dress, jewelry, anything, a refrigerator, software, anything. The only thing that we actually see that was created in the Palestinian Authority is terror, terrorists, terrorism, support of terrorism, sponsoring of terrorism, and pointing fingers and blaming the whole world for their misery. Israel had nowhere near the money when it started out as the modern state of Israel in 1948. It had nowhere near the money. And look what we've done today. Look where we are today. Because we don't go blaming people and pointing fingers for our troubles. We work through them. We find solutions. And when we find solutions, we help other people. Sadly, we don't see this happening in the Palestinian Authority. The public comments made by administration officials so far suggest the plan will lean heavily on substantial financial support for the Palestinian Authority economy, much of it funded by the Gulf Arab states in return for concessions on territory and statehood. Quote, the absolute last thing the world needs is a failed Palestinian state between Israel and Jordan, Friedman said in the Times interview. He's correct. That is the last thing we need, is any type of Palestinian state. Maybe they won't take it. maybe it doesn't meet their minimums. I mean, in other words, their demands. We are relying upon the fact that the right plan for the right time will get the right reaction over time. And it goes on more to say. You can check out the article if you want on Arutz Sheva, IsraelNationalNews.com. And so the question is, should Israel, can we, when is it going to be, if it's going to be, how much is Israel going to actually look into this and actually perhaps annex our homeland to the modern state of Israel, Judea and Samaria? Here is the opportunity where the U.S. ambassador, who doesn't do anything unless the president and the government of the United States says it's okay, gives a green light, that he can even make a statement like that. But I do have to say that everywhere that Israel is, there's peace and prosperity. You look at the headlines. Let me just go, let's go to the front page of Arutz Sheva. Here, top story right now. IDF soldiers and Palestinian Authority security forces exchange fire in Shechem. Shechem, who doesn't know the Hebrew word, is the name of the city which the Romans changed to Naples. Their new Naples. You know about Naples in Italy? But of course, the Arabs cannot say the P sound, so it's called Nablus today. Instead of Naples, it's called Nablus. Nablus. Like they can't say their own name that they claim that they are. Palestinian, they say Palestinian, Palestine. What kind of nation has a name that they can't even pronounce? Only a nation that's taken on a foreign identity and claiming it as theirs. Nablus is Shechem. If you read the Bible, if you read the Torah, you're going to see it in Hebrew. Today they call it Nablus, Naples, because the Romans came in, occupied the Jewish people. They changed the name of Israel to Palestine, Palestina, because they could say peas. The Arabs don't have a P in their alphabet. Why would they give themselves a name that doesn't exist in their alphabet? All right. So we are going to be speaking when we get back with Nadia Matar. She's the head of the sovereignty movement, meaning that Israel should put sovereignty over Judea and Samaria, return it in a legal stature under the modern state of Israel, as it should be, because again, wherever there are Jews, there is peace and prosperity. There's better health care, there's better education, because these are Jewish values. Unfortunately, they're not Arab values, because we look at the Arab world today and we see a catastrophe when it comes to their health care, a catastrophe when it comes to keeping peace. I mean, most all the conflicts in the world today involve Arab Islamic countries and or Arab Islamic countries. This is very sad. We want to raise the world to a higher level where everybody, Jew, Gentile, whether you have slanted eyes or more rounded eyes, whether you have more white skin or more brown skin, whether you're pink with purple polka dots, whether you're yellow stripes with green stars on your skin, I'm just throwing it out. We're all brothers and sisters. We all stem from the same mommy and daddy, Adam and Eve. We're all brothers and sisters. We should get along. We should love each other. We should help each other. We shouldn't kill each other. Someone once made a joke that if Israel really controlled the world, and let's just say the Middle East, can you imagine if Israel took over the entire Middle East, what prosperity there would be? Israel would have all these petrodollars. What amazing things we would be able to use that money for to improve life for people all over the Middle East, Jew or not Jew, Muslim or not Muslim, just because you're a human being and we cherish each other and we value each other because we're all of God's creations? What an amazing Middle East we would have if Israel had the oil money, and with our brains, we could do so much good. Instead, the people who have the oil money want to destroy us. Want to destroy the light in the Middle East. I don't understand it. All right, when we get back, we'll be speaking with Nadia Matar. Feel free to call into the show.
Shalom, everybody. Making a difference often takes just one moment and one person at a time. I am Orly Benny Davis, your show host on Israel News Talk Radios from Jerusalem with Love. You'll be hearing people talking about politics, religion, social issues, and making a better tomorrow. Join me, Orly Benny Davis, for God and Country. From Jerusalem with Love.
Wednesdays on Israel News Talk Radio.
Okay, we are back here at the show, at the Tamar Yonah Show here at IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. And we are talking about Israel and the possibility that we would annex Judea and Samaria. What an amazing thing that would be. What a right thing to do. And I'm going to give our call-in numbers. I'm going to actually post them in the chat room. If you want to call into the show and ask a question or make a comment, you can do so. Our numbers are on our homepage at IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com at the top of the page. And also, I just posted them in the chat room. And if you like, if you're listening to the show, feel free to come into the chat room. It is the orange button on our player at IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. All right. Do we have our guest? Okay, so we have joining us now Nadia Matar. She is the co-chairwoman of the Women in Green and the Sovereignty Movement with Yehudit Katzover. They came out with a statement just several weeks ago supporting the Prime Minister's statement about possible annexation. This was before the elections, saying it was a historic moment because even if it's only a promise of elections, it is the first time a Prime Minister in Israel sees Israeli sovereignty in Judea and Samaria as a viable political plan. And to top that off, since the elections, we have seen the U.S. Ambassador David Friedman, who came out and said that Israel has a right to annex some, quote unquote, of Judea and Samaria. Welcome to the show, Nadia Matar.
Shalom, Tamar. Shalom to the listeners.
It's very, very good to have you on. Nadia, I know that you are working very, very feverishly in the sovereignty movement. You're getting the younger generation here in Israel, teens and kids in their early 20s. I'm saying kids in their early 20s. It shows how old I am. But you're getting them involved. Also, they are wanting to see sovereignty here in Judea and Samaria. And we know that wherever Jews are, there is peace and there is security and there is prosperity. And yet, the world still doesn't want to see us in annexing Judea and Samaria. What do you have to say about this whole thing?
Good morning to everybody. I think that it's a process. The world has to see a people that knows what it wants. If we know what we want, then in the end the world will accept. And the world only attacks us if they hear stuttering and wavering and question marks coming from the Israeli people. And thank God if during Oslo in the 90s, the people of Israel had a leadership that promoted withdrawals and caving in to terrorists and giving part of our homeland to murderers who are calling for the destruction of Israel, there has been a major shift over the years. I'm now taking a zoom out of what is going on over the last few years, and then I'll zoom into what we do. But let's first zoom out. Over the past years, thank God, there has been a waking up in Israel to the fact that, as you said, any talks about fake peace, any talks about giving away land to the Arab enemy will only bring destruction, havoc. We paid with so many victims of Oslo who had been murdered because of the naivete of people on the left who thought that they could give weapons and turn a murderer into an angel, which hasn't worked. And now the shift is that it's the opposite. We have to understand that there will be genuine peace, as you said, real justice, freedom of religion, freedom of talk, etc., only when Israel will be sovereign. I don't like the word annexation. We don't have to annex. We won the war in 1967, and all we need to do is to apply Israeli rule, Israeli sovereignty over Judea and Samaria. The word annexation scares off people, sounds as if it's very violent, and legally it is not what we're doing. We are basically finishing the victory of the Six-Day War by having returned to our biblical heartland, God-given biblical heartland, and applying Israeli sovereignty over it, which should have been done the day we won the war, and then there wouldn't have been any discussions and any peace nows and any talks in the world that we are occupiers, because we should have done that. But they didn't. So now we're basically correcting what should have been done 52 years ago by promoting a plan that will bring real peace. And that means Israeli sovereignty from the Jordan to the river, Israeli rule everywhere. Judea and Samaria will be no different than Beersheba and Ra'anana, etc. And the purpose of the Israeli sovereignty is to have a Jewish state from the sea to the Jordan with a vast Jewish majority and a non-Jewish minority that respects and obeys the rule of that is loyal to the state of Israel. That is the purpose. And we're working towards this since 2011. Judith Katzover is the one who said, many people wrote about it before, an article here and an article there, and promoted it, like Uri Litzur of blessed memory, Karen Anglik, we have to give everybody the credit, and Mike Weiss and many others. But Judith Katzover is the one who decided we have to turn this into a campaign. The national camp has to raise a flag. What is our plan? The left is promoting a plan that we know is suicidal, the two-state solution. It sounds very romantic. 2 states for 2 people, which only means suicide and the end of Israel. Anybody who understands what it really means, and means the right of return, it means missiles on Ben Gurion, it means the end of Tel Aviv. But what is the plan of the national right? It is not enough to say we want Jewish communities. We didn't come to Israel only to build Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria. The Ramban says it very clearly, "V'horashtem et haaretz," when you inherit the land, that means that you have to also be politically a sovereign over your land. You cannot not be sovereign, and therefore that's what we're promoting for years. We're coming up with and it's working. More and more people understand that's the real peace. And I'll surprise you, Tamar, and your listeners, when I'll tell you that not only Jews are part of our sovereignty movement, but more and more Christians and more Arabs have joined the call for Israeli sovereignty on our upcoming conference this coming Thursday in 2 days in Bar Ilan. We're organizing our second youth conference, annual sovereignty youth conference. We're using the prize that we won, the Moscowitz Prize, in order to cover at least partly of the expenses of that very big conference. And one of the speakers, a keynote speaker, will be Bassam Eid, an Arab from East Jerusalem, who has been very brave in denouncing the Palestinian Authority for being corrupt and terrorist and not wanting real peace, and for saying that he knows that for a better life for Jews and Arabs alike is to have Israeli sovereignty. He says it very bravely. He's coming to speak to us. And he says, I prefer residency. I understand you can't give me citizenship, at least not in the beginning, because Israel has to be careful to keep its state Jewish. But Bassam Eid, prefer residency under Israeli sovereignty than citizenship in a jihadist, terrorist Arab state in Judea and Samaria, which only will oppress other Arabs.
Okay, Nadia, let me jump in there for a second, because one of our listeners wrote in and they're asking, Nadia, what do we do with the Arabs in Judea and Samaria? Because not all the Arabs think alike, and there are some Arabs who want to destroy Israel, who don't want to be under Israeli sovereignty.
Absolutely, it's very good. This is the million-dollar questions that everybody asks us. We have to also understand things will be very different when there be here Israeli sovereignty. The first thing that we will have accomplished will be to stop the hope of the Arabs for a Palestinian state instead of Israel in Israel. They say to us that there is Arab terror because of the despair. They're despairing, and that's why they're doing terror. It's exactly the opposite. They're doing terror because they still have the hope that they can take away our land from us. So the very first thing we will do is to once and for all cut off that hope that there ever will be a Palestinian state or entity or mini-state or whatever you want to call it, something where they'll be sovereign here east of the Jordan River. No, it's only going to be Israeli sovereignty. That, and anybody who wants to fight with us, we will win. And I think Bezalel Smotrich said it the best. We will offer the Arabs three options. Those who want to live with us will be welcome. That means that they will get residency at the beginning with a path to citizenship over the years. Obviously, we have to be very careful. We cannot give them democratic tools in order to destroy the Jewish state. So we'll be very careful, and don't blame us of apartheid. As Bassam Eid says it's better to be an Arab resident in Israel than an Arab citizen in a Palestinian state where they cut off their heads, where women have no rights. So don't start giving us mussar about beginning with residency. We have to first and foremost do what is best for us. And again, we know there will be Arabs who will want to take upon themselves all the obligations of a citizen, and there will be a path to citizenship. It's a process. The Arabs who want, those will be Arabs who live with us and understand that they cannot express any national entity, national expression, but they will be private. They will have rights, private rights, but no national rights. Any Arabs who want to live in an Arab state, who feel that they want to be part of an Arab country with national rights of Arab rights, we will help to leave. I left Belgium. I was in Belgium, and I had a good life there. But I wanted to live as a Jew in my Jewish state, my Jewish nation state. So I left Belgium, and I went to live in Israel. Any Arabs who want to live in an Arab state, we will certainly help them to leave. And the Arabs who want to fight us, we will beat them.
And, Nadia, maybe a lot of the publicity you should be doing is to get these Arab voices who want to live under Israeli sovereignty and have them speaking to the world.
Tamar, on Thursday, Bassam Eid will be there. We will film him. We will spread his message. We're making a movie about him. That's exactly
Wonderful.
What we're doing now.
Wonderful to hear.
And we have Christians who also now have joined in, and this is the time to bless and to thank and to congratulate David Friedman for expressing, obviously, what President Donald Trump himself understood, that only Israeli sovereignty will bring genuine peace. We have to thank them. We have to be thankful. But we also, however, have to understand they're not coming out in order to do us favors. The American president is doing what he should do. He always does what is best for the American interest. And
Nadia, we're going to a break. This segment is ending. Do you want to stay on, or do you need to go start your day?
Whatever you want. If you want me to stay on, I'll stay on.
Okay, so stay with us during the break. We're going to be right back afterwards, and I want to remind everybody, if you want to call in, feel free to call into the show.
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
This is Shai Ben-Tekoa, and each week I'll be webcasting to you from Judea, origin of the word Jew, a people besieged and beleaguered in every generation. Nazi Germany's but a memory, but in its place the world invented the phantom Palestinians as this generation's internationally authorized Jew killers. Tune in for a different slant on life in Israel, Phantom Nation, every Monday.
Hi, I'm Rabbi David Aaron. The soul basics are the most profound, the most essential, and yet often the most neglected in our education. Join me for Soul Talk on Israel's News Talk Radio and discover the secrets to love, spiritual growth, and personal power.
All right, we are back here at the Tamar Yonah Show on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. And just over the weekend, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, came out and said that Israel has a right to annex some of Judea and Samaria. That's already a big step. It's not, I would like to hear just Judea and Samaria, but it's a very positive step that we're hearing from the U.S. administration. And our guest today is Nadia Matar. She's the co-chairwoman of Women in Green and the Sovereignty Movement with Yehudit Katzover. And she's here answering our questions on this. If you'd like to call into the show and ask a question yourself, feel free to do so. Our numbers are at the top of our homepage at IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. Again, it's at the top of our homepage, IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. Our phone numbers, feel free to call in. You can also join us in the chat room. The phone numbers are posted there as well. And if you want to call in, you should call in right now while there's still time. So, Nadia, you wanted to say a little bit about the statement of the U.S. ambassador to Israel, David Friedman.
I think we have to consider this as a historic statement because for the first time, if for years the plans that the Europeans or the Americans were bringing in order to solve the conflict was always related to withdrawals that Israel and concessions that Israel has to make. This is the first time that we hear about a plan where America understands that we need Israeli sovereignty. Obviously, we think this is good as a first step. We believe that partial sovereignty is dangerous. It would choke the Jewish communities, and what would be with the rest of the area where there would be no sovereignty, God forbid, that would become a Palestinian state, then what have we gained? So we see this as a great first historic step towards the right direction. And we understand that on the one hand, we have to say thank you. On the other hand, we also know that the American president, obviously David Friedman was speaking in the name of the American president, doesn't do anything just to make us feel good. He does it because he acts like he should, for American interest. And for the first time, the American president and his government understand that for the American interest in the Middle East, Israel has to be sovereign over Judea and Samaria. That is a big thing.
How does it help America for Israel to be sovereign here?
America understands that when Israel controls the mountain ridges of Judea and Samaria, Israel controls basically what is going on all over the area, in Jordan, etc. If, God forbid, on the other hand, it would be terrorists controlling the mountain ridge, it would be terrorists controlling Tel Aviv and Jordan and the entire Middle East. And therefore, this is a statement that is not only just out there for making us feel good. People have to understand that, yes, we're grateful, but we're also grateful that there's a fantastic American president that understands what is good for the American interest and for the Arabs and the Jews alike and for genuine peace. And that is a direction we have to continue to promote, and we call upon everybody to come to the annual youth conference this coming Thursday in Bar Ilan, which you understand, Tamar, what the symbolic message is. If in Bar Ilan a few years ago a wrong statement was made, we will correct that this coming Thursday by saying the land of Israel belongs to the people of Israel.
Right, and it was in Bar Ilan University where Prime Minister Netanyahu got up and talked about accepting a two-state solution, which was a horrid thing to do because we supposedly live in a democratic state, and there was no vote in the Knesset or by the people that we are going for a policy of a two-state solution. He just said it and then adopted it, and look where it's gotten us till today.
Absolutely. Thank God that there are things one can correct, and things are being corrected now for real peace.
Nadia, before you go, is there any last thing you'd like to leave our audience with?
We call upon everybody who basically want to join this incredible, exciting message of sovereignty, which is a message that will bring real, genuine peace, stability in the area in order for Israel to be what it should be, a light unto the nations. Jews and Arabs alike are joining us. And join us, ribonut.co.il, or you can join us on ribonut@gmail.com, and we will give you more details.
Again, Ribonut, what was the website?
www.ribonut.co.il. You have in English and in Hebrew. And our email is ribonut, RIBONUT, @gmail.com. Looking forward to hear from you.
All right. So we're going to try to put a link to that on our page as well where this show is podcasted. Thank you so much, Nadia Matar.
Thank you, Tamar, for all you do, for spreading this truth. Very important.
And to you, who's really doing the work. Thank you. Be well. Have a good day. God bless you. All right, everybody. That was Nadia Matar. She was talking about the importance of Jewish sovereignty in Judea and Samaria, over all of Judea and Samaria. People don't realize how tiny a country Israel is. We're talking about the size of the state of New Jersey. We're talking about if there were a Palestinian state, God forbid, in the belly of New Jersey, of Israel, how close it is to our international airport, Ben Gurion International Airport here in Israel. Can you imagine every plane that, every flight that took off or landed here would be in the scopes of the terrorists, would be able to take down anybody, your aunt, your uncle, your nieces, you, anybody who's in those planes, just to blow them up? Not only would it make a terror attack where, God forbid, a plane was blown up, but it would destroy Israel's economy. How many people would want to fly to Israel and vacation here when they know that a plane is in the sights of terrorists? Can you imagine that? Let's go to Rachel in California. Hi there, Rachel. What is your comment or question here at Israel News Talk Radio? Oh, we lose her? Rachel?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I'm calling from Los Angeles, California. My name is Rachel Diamond. I wanted to talk to Tamar and Nadia on their show.
Okay, so Nadia had just left us, but you're speaking with me, Tamar. Go ahead.
Oh, shalom, Tamar. It's Rachel. How are you?
Very, very good. So what did you think about the interview? What did you want to comment on?
Well, your interview was fantastic, by the way. And I wanted to say that we need to act proactively. We need to demand sovereignty. We need to apply sovereignty. And it's only us, the people, that can demand this from the government. President Trump, in a split second, gave us sovereignty on Golden Heights. Just like that. Prime Minister Netanyahu, the Jewish people, and everybody has to just say and show the world, we made up our mind, this is how we are going to go forward for the good of our people, for the good of the nation, for good of the region, and for good of the Arabs that are living in Israel. And I think, of course, he wants to see another failed Arab state. So until we act proactively and we do a conscious decision, Abbas himself, in front of the whole UN, years ago and still today, claims and proclaims everywhere that the Oslo Accords are dead. So we need to follow suit. We need to follow him. If he says they're dead, why isn't it that we don't say it's dead?
That's a very important
government
point.
Doesn't say it.
Absolutely. That's a very important point you made. And I want to say that you're saying that we need to really push this. And here we have the hero, one of the heroes of Israel, Nadia Matar, and the sovereignty movement, and Yehudit Katzover, and all the people who are going to be attending the Bar Ilan conference there, and are going to be talking about this and pushing it. And now, during the election time, again, the national elections, we can really try to twist the arms of our leadership and get them to make these or these campaign promises that they will annex Judea and Samaria, and in order to get our votes. And that's a very, very good point you made. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and bringing that up, Rachel. Thank you, from Los Angeles, California. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. My pleasure. And
very
happy to share my thoughts with you. And I do think that it's very, very important for the Israeli government and all the Israeli people to also say the Oslo Accords are dead, since the leader of the Palestinian people has been saying it over and over publicly.
Since Mahmoud Abbas has been saying
everybody.
that. Right, absolutely. All right, that's a very good point. By the way, I want to say that there really is no Palestinian people. They would say Palestinian people. There's no such a thing as this. So we have to remember that and not to go in on their narrative, which is historically incorrect, grammatically incorrect, etc., etc. So it looks like I only have another minute or so to the end of the show. I'm not going to have time to talk with you about my Shavuot weekend. Maybe another time I'll be able to share that with you. But the thing that we want to remember here is that Judea and Samaria are Jewish. They belong to the Jewish people. We now have a green light to start talking about annexation and doing it here to apply Israeli sovereignty or Jewish sovereignty over our biblical heartland. At least parts of it, the United States is saying that we could do. Of course, we can do anything we need to do, we want to do, and we should be doing. And we have to get our people here, our leadership, to desire this. And that it means putting pressure on our leaders, telling them, yes, we want our homeland. We want it to be prosperous, and get the Arab voices out there that want to see a prosperous part of history for their people, because the Arabs who live in Israel under Israeli rule enjoy more freedoms than in any other Arab or Muslim country. They enjoy more freedom here in Israel. They have prosperity here. There are judges, there's doctors, there are lawyers, there are Knesset members. Even on the Supreme Court of Israel they sit. They have more rights here than anywhere to bring those voices forward. And God bless people like Nadia Matar, Yehudit Katzover, and the other Jews who are pushing towards Israeli Jewish sovereignty here in the heartland of Judea and Samaria. Thanks for being with us.
Israel News Talk Radio's chat room. Just click the orange button at the top of the IsraelNewsTalkRadio.home page, log in as yourself or an anonymous guest, and join in on the fun. You'll meet other listeners from all over the world who listen to Israel News Talk Radio, and you can make new friends. Israel News Talk Radio's chat room. It's the closest you can get to being in the studio with us.
We love listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Where can you get the inside news on Israel? At Israel News Talk Radio, we're dedicated to sharing Israel's inside story with the world by providing our listeners with news on Israeli politics, current affairs, and Israeli Jewish culture. The Israel News Talk Radio homepage also provides you, the listener, with useful information at your fingertips, with scrolling news headlines, weather, currency exchange, Shabbat candlelighting times, and so much more. Our radio programming is always accessible and on demand. We operate absolutely free of charge for everyone, everywhere. If you love what we do, partner with us now by becoming an Israel News Talk Radio supporter. With your support, you'll be inscribed on our Israel News Talk Radio Wall of Fame. There's nothing like us in the world. Be part of something great. Israel News Talk Radio. Straight talk from Israel.
If you love Israel News Talk Radio, then you'll love our Facebook page. We keep you up to date on what's happening in Israel, plus little surprise treasures that we don't share on the radio. Go now to follow us on Facebook. Just look for the Israel News Talk Radio Facebook page, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us by clicking on the like button. We post great stuff there that you'll want to share. Israel News Talk Radio on Facebook and Israel News Radio on Twitter.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.